You would think diagnosing tuning problems over the phone would be difficult, but it's actually really easy. In 99% of the calls that I get on Broadhead flight, usually one of two things has happened. Either something's gone overlooked, or there hasn't been any tuning to begin with. Tuning could be a relatively simple process, or it could get as advanced and technical as you want it. Depends on what your goals are. If we had to draw a line in the sand of what is a good tune, I think a good place to start with that would be just getting your fixed blade broadheads to hit with your field points. If you're relatively new to setting up a bow and tuning, I do recommend paper tuning. Setting up for paper tuning is pretty simple. You want to set your bail up about shoulder height in an area where you could hang a frame of some sort with just regular newspaper over it is fine. And you want to set it up about 1.5 arrows to 2 arrows length away from your target butt, just to make sure that your arrow cleanly clears it before entering the target butt. You want to start with the front of your bow roughly 3 to 6 feet in front of the paper. Now the tear you get is going to indicate what adjustment you need to make. If you have a left tear, move your rest towards your bow riser for a right-handed compound shooter shooting release. If you get a right tear, move your rest away from the riser, opposite for left-handers. If you get an up tear, move your knock point down or your rest up. If you get a down tear, move your knock point up or your rest down. Now there's some things you need to know about paper tuning. It's more of a means of alignment than it is a means to get a good tune. It's possible, but it doesn't always happen. You can have something wrong with your bow and tune it for a bullet hole at one set distance. And the way you want to check for that is back up to 9 to 12 feet and shoot again. Sometimes you still have a little bit of a tear and you could tune it down to a bullet hole and move back up to 3 to 6 feet and still have a bullet hole there. If you got that, then you're ready to tune. The thing about paper tuning is you have this area, it's a circle, and let's just say on this bow it's 3/8 of an inch in diameter. You can move the center point of your rest anywhere in that circle and still get a bullet hole. Now when you start doing tuning like broadhead tuning, it's just a finer tune. That means that circle gets a little smaller. There are several variables that have influence over this. One is the surface area of your broadheads. The greater the surface area, the finer this tune needs to be. Another is fletching size and control. The lesser the fletching size and control, the smaller it needs to be. Speed, of course, has influence over it. The greater your velocity, the finer this tune needs to be. And distance can come into play. You can tune to have your broadheads hitting with your field tips at 20 yards, but back up to 30 and 40, and this tune needs to be finer. The real value of paper tuning isn't the tune that you get from it. When you're first starting out learning tuning, it allows you to correct major issues that would make broadhead tuning extremely difficult. And it's not just the bullet hole you're looking to get from it. When you have a tear and you make an adjustment to correct that tear, you want to be seeing it correct itself. And that's how you know that your setup is tunable. There are some issues that come up in paper tuning, such as form issues and mechanical issues with your bow, such as cam timing can cause high and low tears that you can't tune out. Cam lean can cause center shot issues. If you are having difficulty getting a bullet hole out of paper at more than one distance, that's when you know it's time to go ahead to a pro shop. Now, after you've aligned your bow, whether you did it with paper or a laser, measurements, however you did it, before you start broadhead tuning, you want to sight in your field tips. I recommend starting at about 10 yards, and I use 2 different targets. I use a field tip target and a broadhead target side by side. And this way I'm not shooting all my arrows in one group, damaging any arrows. I just measure the size of my group and where it is off center of the bullseye I'm aiming at, and that'll give me whether my field tip group and my broadhead group are hitting together. Broadhead tuning is pretty simple. It's real similar to paper tuning. It's just simple rest adjustments. If your broadheads are hitting to the right of your field points, move your rest to the left. If your broadheads are hitting to the left of your field points, move your rest to the right. If your broadheads are hitting above your field points, move your knock point up or your rest down. If your broadheads are hitting below your field points, move your knock down or your rest up. It's pretty simple. There are some times though where you'll be making adjustments according to the Easton Tuning Guide and it'll start going in the opposite direction. That's okay, that happens sometimes. There's a lot of different equipment out there and a lot of different setups. If that happens, then go in the opposite direction and just chase them till they come together. Now I've already done my tuning up close and at 20. So now I've backed off at 30 yards to see how my broadhead tune is, if I'm still hitting with my field tips and what my group size is like. At that speed, I'll take that. That's probably about an inch, a little over, maybe an inch and a quarter. You can pull both arrows with one hand. Now I gotta say something about speed here. It's just a finer tune. I haven't done anything to tune this bow any differently than what I've told you in this video. I just shot it through paper a couple times to make sure I didn't have any major issues, and then came out and broadhead tuned it, and that's all I did to it. I'll shoot a string of 3 shots so we can see what kind of speed I'm getting out of it. It's a relatively simple process, and the more you practice it, the better you'll get at it and the faster you'll be. All of this has been covered in the Easton Tuning Guide. You can Google it online. If you can't find a copy, just shoot us an email at tech@magnusbroadheads.com and we'll send you a copy.